In the last video I said I'd cover itemization, but just quickly I want to cover runes and setting up a rune page for each game. So first of all we're gonna start out with precision. We really want these precision runes. Really, we want lethal tempo is always the way to go. Sometimes you can go conqueror, but I really recommend lethal tempo for most cases. 99% of cases you're going to be going lethal tempo. Kind of just ignore this option. It's good if you want the extra AD really early. But DPS wise, lethal tempos pretty matches it, and also it's just way better late game, right? It lets you go past that attack speed cap. It gives you the gives you the attack speed you just want on Jinx. Press the attack sometimes can be good. Fleet super safe, but really it's between conqueror and lethal. In order of power, I'd say actually lethal tempo, conqueror, press the attack, and then fleet. Fleet is just the worst. You don't want to go this, but basically lethal. Now, this rune kind of depends on the game, but 99% of the time, again, you're going to be going presence. However, sometimes if you have a healer, like a Soraka or a Yumi, overheal can be a good option. And also Triumph is a really good rune. It gives you 12% of missing health on each kill, right? So if you proc this 5 times in a fight, you're going to have 60% recovered health. Jinx, though, is a mana reliant champion, so early game especially, you're really going to want this presence of mind for the mana regen for your rockets and stuff, etc. However, this can be broken sometimes, and I'll cover that when we go Manamune, potentially. So these runes are kind of just between Bloodline and Alacrity. Alacrity is going to give you that extra attack speed, and Bloodline is going to give you extra lifesteal. Most of the time I end up going Bloodline, and I think a lot of other players do. If I'm thinking in the game that I'm going to end up going Shield Bow, sometimes I'll go Alacrity if I really want that attack speed. But most of the time, even when I'm going Shield Bow, I normally just go Bloodline. Bloodline is such a good rune, like gold-wise, so I always recommend this. So Last Stand is kind of just bad. You never really want to be this low on Jinx, so it's just a bad option, really. So that brings this down to Cut Down and Coup de Grace. Coup de Grace, 8% more damage. People who have less than 40% HP, right? So more damage, lower they are. Cut Down's going to give you more damage the more HP they are. So if they're building tanks, if they're building a lot of like bruisers that build HP, this can also be a good option. Most of the time though, you're just going to want to go Coup because you're going to be one-shotting the squishies, and 8% more damage on people who are lower than 40% is quite a lot. So this is where it gets really interesting. There are runes in each one of these secondaries that can be taken on Jinx. So we'll start out with the most common, which is Inspiration, Biscuits, and either Boots or Cosmic Insight. Boots is good if you can wait out that 12 minutes in lane, and also 300 gold value plus 10 movement speed is quite a lot. So gold wise, Boots is going to be great. Cosmic Insight gives you summon a spell haste and item haste. Item haste can be good for things like GA, Shield Bow, Gale Force, things like that, etc. And summon a spell haste just gives you your flash and your heal and etc. quicker. A lot of the time, this normally comes down to just going Cosmic Insight because Boots are a really important early game item. And most of the time, you actually can't afford to just not buy Boots until 12 minutes. However, when you can and you have a free lane, this is a really good option. So this right here is going to be the most common rune page you're going to run. First rune page that you might run that's not this one is with Boots. Boots can be good scaling option. Now Domination does have some runes in here that are really good for Jinx as well. So first of all, Taste of Blood is a good option, gives you more healing. So this can be really good in lane. When you hit a rocket, it gives you like a nice little boost of healing, like nice bit of sustain if it's in lane. But after that, it's really not the best. So this is like a good early game rune. Now the next one is Eyeball Collection. You're basically just going to get AD out of this. It's actually good value. Like I do think there's a lot of AD in here. So this paired with this is also another really good rune page. Now if you really want to go sustain, you can go Taste of Blood and Ravenous. Now Ravenous Hunter did get nerfed. However, it's still okay. It's really not the best, and I don't think this is the best for sustain. However, it can be good late game. The alternative to this page with the sustain is also Eyeball Collection Ravenous. This can also be quite a good rune page. It's really not optimal though. I don't like this rune at the moment. It's like very low value. It only gives you like 6% Omnivamp. Compared to the 9% that you get from Bloodline, it's not as good, and especially if you're building other Omnivamp or Lifesteal items. So this is the other rune page that you can build from this secondaries, is Ingenious Hunter. Ingenious Hunter got buffed, and now it gives you a lot of item haste. And this can be good for things like GA, Shield Bow, Gale Force, even Manamune, if you decide to go that route with Jinx, which I'll cover just a little bit later. But yeah, this is really good for item haste. So items that are going to be giving you cooldowns are really good with this. So this gives you AD and item haste, which is a good little combo. The other runes from this page are not going to be that great. The most common rune page you're going to run from here is Taste of Blood and Eyeball Collection, or Taste of Blood Ravenous, or Taste of Blood Ravenous, or Eyeball Collection Ravenous. They're going to be the most common rune pages from here. Now, sorcery actually has some interesting options. You can go Gathering Storm, which is obviously a really good late game rune, and just after 20 to 30 minutes, this rune gains a lot of value. Absolute Focus can also give you a bit of early game damage and, you know, just late game damage. Just basically, this is for pure AD. This just gives you AD, and it's actually quite a lot of AD. You get about an item's worth of AD from this, which can obviously be crazy good. Nullifying Orb is also another good option. It's good against AP champs, specifically assassins, but just any AP champ that can get you low. This is also a good option. Now, I said earlier that Jinx has mana problems. This can kind of substitute for that. 250 mana is a lot, and also the 1% every 5 seconds. This is kind of good, but most of the time, if you take presence, you're not going to need this. Now, the last one is Transcendence. Transcendence is also pretty good, like an option. Just ability haste, but it's not the best. I wouldn't really recommend it. Nimbus Cloak is also, you know, it's suboptimal. It can be taken in certain situations, but the only real rune pages you're going to want to run from here are Absolute Focus and Gathering Storm. Gathering Storm and Nullifying Orb, or Absolute Focus and maybe Nullifying Orb. These are the only real rune choices you're going to want to run from this page. Nothing in here is that good. You can run Bone Plating into really hard matchups, but most of the time you're just going to want to run Sustain or just the extra damage, because you either get out of that lane and you have extra damage, or you just, you know, lose the lane gracefully. Nothing here is that good. You can maybe go Bone Plating and Overgrowth, or Bone Plating and Demolish, but nothing here is that good. The best rune page right now is most likely Biscuits and Cosmic. This is the best rune page, I'd say, for I'd say 60% of games. And then you're going to want to run. So this is really good. So my rune pages are in this order of like most powerful, I guess. 60% of games you're going to want to run this. Just Biscuits and Cosmic. Biscuits are really good for in lane, and Boots are just going to give you a lot more economy, right? Because they're 300 gold value. I'd say the next rune page I'd recommend running is Absolute Focus and Gathering, if you can get out of lane without really needing a secondary rune, and you don't really want the 300 gold value from the Boots. I'd actually say that if you don't need the Biscuits, this is better than running Boots, because it gives you a lot of AD value. And for sustain, you want to go Taste of Blood Ravenous. This isn't really optimal, but if you're in like a really hard matchup and you want a lot of sustain, this is good. Taste of Blood if you really want that early game, you know, sustain, but also then transition more into an economy based rune, like you get more AD just for free. Or you can go Eyeball Collection and Ravenous if you want more later sustain damage from your secondary runes. And that's kind of runes covered. Most of the time I'm running Boots or Cosmic, and sometimes I'll run Cosmic and Gathering Storm. That's what I normally run. Now let's move on to items. Now talking about items and actually being in the game. First thing I actually want to touch on that's not items but is in the game is skill order. So you're going to want to go your Q first and then your W second. This is very standard. However, what I've realized is sometimes when you have no like initial CC, or you don't really need the rockets level 3, can go them level 4 and get your Q upgrade. Now, if we just look at raw DPS, this is without items, obviously. But if we just look at raw DPS, we're doing about 80 DPS. Okay, it dwindles a little bit when we don't get our lethal tempo. With a Q upgrade, we do a lot more. It's about 5 to 7 DPS. And the other key thing is with this is we get a lot more rocket range. So this can be really good if you have no follow-up CC. This is just another little thing to consider. This rocket range is level 3, can be a lot better than flame jumper sometimes. Another little thing that people don't normally think of is when they think of biscuits, they don't remember that biscuits give you additional maximum mana. So if I consume all these biscuits, I'm going to get 150 mana. Each biscuit is 50 mana. They're actually really huge for early game mana as well. So now let's talk about some early game items first of all. So boots start very bad in my opinion. Boot start can be good on things like Cogmore. You get 4 potions. 5 potions, sorry, I mean. Can be... No, you get 4 potions, sorry. Yeah, I'm messing up there. Yeah, 4 potions. So you get boots 4 potions. I mean, it's really bad unless you're in like a lane where you need a lot of movement speed early and you need the sustain from the potions. This is like a very bad option in my opinion. So you don't normally want to be going this on Jinx. Onto longsword start. Longsword refillable is actually like a very common start right now. And the theory behind it is well, if you go this instead of going Doran's Blade, you're up 500 gold. Now this works out because first of all, you're 350 gold ahead in your mythic path. And if you start out with Doran's Blade potion, normally you're going to use this potion and then buy a refillable anyway. So you're going to be down more gold than you would if you just initially start out with a refillable. This is a really common start right now. Another common start is 3 potions because this gives you even more sustain and like survivability in the lane. Also putting you a little bit ahead of your mythic path. This is the most common start right now and it's probably the best start. The other start is just standard Doran's potion. This is good obviously. It's not as cost effective as longsword obviously because this doesn't build into anything. You're kind of having the best of both worlds here. You're kind of having the best of the Doran's shield with the health and the omnivamp, but you're not getting as much sustain, but you're also not losing as much damage. So this is kind of the middle ground between Doran's shield and just getting a bunch of damage from the longsword. As we're talking about it, let's cover the Doran's shield. Doran's shield gives you a lot of sustain on range poke. So things like Zyra, Brand, Varus, things like that, that gives you a lot of sustain against. So this is good if you're into like poke lanes and you just really want to survive the lane. Cole, you never really want to go this because even the gold that you get from it, you might as well just go longsword instead of Cole. You're going to make up the gold in your mythic path, so it's not worth going. So now let's talk about mythics. These are the only real mythic options on Jinx. I think Kraken is the best one in most cases. Attack speed, 3 hit passive, loads of AD, crit. Most likely just the best option in, 80% of game. Then you have the Gale Force option, obviously. The dash can be super important. Less damage, but also more survivability from the dash and gives you movement, which is underrated. On Wall Shield Bow, I don't really normally see people going. I think this is like a really good option if you can't survive certain damage. Like this is just a good sustain option. If you're in really long fights, this can be a real saver. Obviously good into assassins like Zed. The shield really helps out and the lifesteal. Also the mythic passive gives you health. So once you're at 3 items, you're gaining like 150 health. It's not a crazy amount, but like I'm pretty sure that's the same amount as a ruby crystal. So yeah, every 3 items, you're gaining what, a 400 gold worth of value in extra. And then also getting 15 AD, which is about 500 gold. So let's talk about the standard build path on Jinx. In most games, I'm going Kraken, I'm going Berserker's Greaves, and I'm going Rune Ants. Kraken is really good for the, damage. Boots, Berserker's Greaves are the only real option. They're way better than all the other options. And Rune Ants is because of the on-hit and the attack speed. This is just the perfect time for Jinx in most cases. 90% of cases you're going to want to run this for the on-hit damage. it lets you hit multiple people. It just gives you what you need in stats. And then I'm going to run IE, or the extra damage, 70 AD, 20% crit, and it also increases your crit damage by 35%. This is a really key item on Jinx. It really increases her damage because she relies on crit so much. So these are going to be my 4 core items, and then it kind of diverges into situational items. Now, standard build would be something like Lord Dominic's for, you know, killing the more bruisery tanks with the armor pen and the 15% bonus damage. Kind of low AD on this item, but it makes up for it in the 15% bonus damage, and obviously it's an armor pen item, right? So this is most likely going to be in a lot of builds, as well as something like anti-heal. Now, this item absolutely blows dick for stats. 25 AD, 25% attack speed, really not the best. This is really about the passive though. It really reduces healing, and I mean, you're never really going to want to build this, but it can be good. It's good when people rely on healing on the enemy team, right? However, normally I'd really like it if my support builds the Putrefier, which gives me this anyway. And it also gives AP for AP supports who heal, such as Sona, Seraphine, Lulu, you know, things like that. Now that's the anti-heal covered and the armor pen. So those are also 2 good situational items. Then you also have Bloodthirster, you know, high AD, 20% lifesteal. That's a lot of lifesteal, especially coming from the runes as well. If you run Bloodline, that's 29% lifesteal in this game. And you also gain a massive shield, right? Like at the moment it's only 85 because I'm level 3, right? But this goes up with level. If I'm level, let's say I'm level, well, you know what, this is late game, so let's say I'm level 16. That's a 315 damage shield, and it stacks up multiple times, right? Like, that's quite a significant shield considering it's basically giving you 315 HP if you overstack it, right? Not a bad item, really, really good item. I love this item on Jinx. Makes my late game feel a lot safer. Now, another good item is obviously GA. 40 armor, 40 AD, and a, you know, the GA passive which revives you. Normally, I don't think this is actually that good. Unless they're into like heavy AD, then the armor can come in handy. But I don't really like the passive. The passive is kind of not useless, but it's a lot less effective unless there's a massive assassin on the enemy team who, once he goes in, he can't get out. Because if there's an assassin on the enemy team, or they can get out, right, like a LeBlanc, this is very useless almost, because it doesn't, when you revive, they're just going to kill you again. And the other time you build this is if, you know, you want an extra life, but the enemy team doesn't have like a massive assassin or something. Normally that happens when a fight is lost, and when you die anyway, you're just going to be revived and killed again. So it's just a waste of an item. It's not very gold effective. Like 40 AD, 40 armor, and it's very expensive, right? 2,800 for those stats are not worth it at all. But however, this does have its place. It's good into assassins who can't get out once they go in for you, and your team can surround you and help you. Now let's talk about some items that aren't built as often. Phantom Dancer. This is actually very, very good once you proc the passive. Normally though, you don't want to run 2 Zil items. So if you're playing like a team comp that is more single target reliant, sometimes building just Phantom Dancer over this can be like a lot better. You're going to gain AD from it. The attack speed is really high. However, you lose the on hit and the AoE, right? Very, very rarely you can build these together. Maybe if you're running into something like a tank and you have something like an on hit item, like we're kind of building outside of, we're talking about kind of things that aren't standard right now. But building this can also be really good because the attack speed that you're getting is obviously dealing more damage with the Mist Sedge passive, which deals 6% of current physical damage, right? It's physical health, 6% current health as damage, right? But anyway, normally standardly, you don't want to build 2 Zil items. So this can be good if you're, you know, trying to one-shot a huge tank and you don't really have to hit multiple people at once. Now let's quickly cover the other Zil item. Bad stats, but pretty good passive, and it gives you a lot of extra bonus range, right? 150 bonus range. Very, very rarely do I think this is actually good. However, if you really, really need the bonus range, even on top of the rockets, this can be good. So Collector is another item that I don't see built very often, but is also actually kind of good. AD crit, and lethality. It's normally this item is built early, but because Jinx doesn't have a lot of, you know, standard items, it can be actually really good on her. The other item that I actually haven't put in this list by accident is Stormrazor. Stormrazor can also be pretty good. Let me cover that quickly. So Stormrazor can also be kind of good. 40 AD, 15% lifesteal. I'd actually prefer building this over something like GA last, because at least with this you're going to deal a lot more damage, right? But yeah, so that's that. Those are kind of the standard items. I guess the final one is Mercurial, but you know when to build this, where you need a QSS. Not the best for, you know, stat wise, but you know, obviously if you need that QSS, this is what you build. Now, something that I've been avoiding this whole video is Manamune, because I'm not sure if it's actually good myself, because last season, I remember, if you remember back last season, things like Twitch, everything was building Manamune, right? Because it gave you so much AD. And then this season, it kind of changed. Like, no one's building it anymore. I think that it's actually still pretty good. So, like, standard build option for Manamune would be, sometimes I'd start tier, go 2 potions. So, just another quick disclaimer. I don't know if this is good. This could be really troll. And I'm sure a lot of people would say it is troll. But it feels good to me, right? So if we can see here, we do a lot of damage, right? Even with 60% crit, we're dealing a lot of damage. However, now Manamune is a cheap item, especially if you start it early, right? If you can stack this up in lane, it can actually be pretty good. And especially because it covers the presence of mind that you don't need anymore, and you can go maybe Triumph or Overheal if you have like a healer. So anyway, if you grab this, so 4th item, we could go Manamune. Now, hear me out when I say this. The stats on it are actually pretty good. We get a lot of AD from the on hit. So we get 29 physical damage on hit, and damaging abilities also deal 71, right? So if I hit this, it's going to deal 813 damage instead of 737, right? So if I'm hitting all my abilities, that's a lot more damage than it would have been, right? Now, attack-wise, we can see how much DPS I'm going to do, right? See that I'm around that 1,800, 1,900 mark. Okay. Doing a lot of damage. This is in minigun form. So the other good thing about this is the fact that I can hit multiple people. Now, if I'm hitting these target dummies, you can see that my Manamune passive is hitting all of them. And we'll see the DPS in just a second. So 1,800, 700, 700, 739, 739, 1,863, right? Now, if we swap to something that we would build. So here's the thing on Jinx is 4th items are kind of hard to come by in the standard build. So in standard build, at this point, I'd probably be building Bloodthirster. Now remember, Bloodthirster is a lot more gold than a Manamune. We can see here, how I'm not going to hit quite the same numbers as a Manamune would. It's slightly less DPS, but you can see how it's almost keeping up. And the reason that it's almost keeping up is because of the crit. Okay. So when I say this so Manamune is better than Bloodthirster for damage, just this wise. But the crit with another item will get better, right? So Manamune, however, as another item, if you pair it with the 80% crit, you're not going to be critting as much, but you're going to be critting a lot more. Your crits are going to be doing a lot more, sorry. So with both of these items, I'm dealing so much damage. Like, unbelievable amounts of damage compared to what I would be. It is literally just giving me so much AD. as well as making my abilities do a lot more damage, right? It really, really shows with the rocket form where it's dealing 110% AD, right? Like, so much damage. Now, obviously, this isn't very good with... I mean, it can be good, but obviously if you need the extra slot for a armor pen item, obviously go that instead. You know, if you need armor pen, don't build more AD. But it can be... It's also very good with the armor pen item as well. So that's what I'm thinking of at the moment. I think that this item can slip into a lot of builds. But, as I say, I'm not sure. I'm still testing it. For me, it feels good. However, for some other people, it might feel really troll. It does kind of set you back a little bit in gold until you complete it, right? So if you build a tier first, kind of get value out of those overheal and triumph, but it's not as good, right? But yeah, can be good later on. Now, I just want to cover a quick subgenre of this as well, because where I got this idea from was last season. Obviously, people were building Manamune. Also, there's a build that goes around that's like Lethality Jinx. And you can kind of build anything with this, but it basically just really focuses on your W and rocket. Now, your W does a lot of damage, and it's on a very low cooldown with this, right? With this build. So this is like, you know, you're still hitting a lot, but you're not hitting as often, right? It is purely about AD and hitting those Ws. The W is on such a low cooldown. I mean, if you want to look up Lethality Jinx, you can. Low cooldowns. I'm sure I'm not building the most effective items in just this bit. But yeah, can be crazy. Especially if you go... You can also go berserkers with this, I think. And you know, you can still be hitting those big numbers, but you're not critting, right? Critting sometimes if you go collector, but it's not about the crit. It's about the abilities, right? Doing that rocket poke and then hitting that W in the ult. If you just look at the numbers on it as well, 865, and then you get you know, 76 more from thingy, from Manamune. Really fun. I definitely recommend at least checking it out, because it's a really new way of playing, and I think it's actually very good, depending on the game, right? But that's what I just thought I'd just cover, because sometimes I am running Manamune and some people will question it, and yeah. So there's another thing that I like to do as well. I like to mix up my item choices sometimes, right? So if I'm really lacking something, I feel like in a game, sometimes I'll just build it. So for example, if I'm missing a lot of resistances, specifically both of them, so you know, armor and magic resist, I'll build gargoyle. Now this shield is pretty good. It's not the best. You don't really get a lot for it. You only get 100 shield, right? But the resistances are really good for this gold, I think. You get 60 armor and 60 magic resist. And obviously you get the passive if they're hitting you. But, I mean, by this point in the 4 items, you're kind of dealing a lot of damage anyway, right? So, sometimes building just a pure tank item can be really good. Another option that I do is randomins. You know, a lot of armor, HP, and also if you go in here, slow them and take away their... Someone comes on you like a Talon, you can, you know, fucking knock out their AD. You got a lot more armor, you're going to survive most likely, right? And once again, you have the damage in these 4 items. You have your Kraken, Runans, and IE, and your boots obviously, but you're dealing a lot of damage. So going something like this, I don't think is a bad option. Another quick option is Frozen Heart. If you're getting hit by something a lot, you know, reducing the attack speed can also be good. Gives you armor, just like randomins, and it's cheaper. So, you know, certain tank items on Jinx I think are very good, just depending on the circumstance. Now, a little bit of mix of both would be something like Titanic Hydra. Now, I know this sounds really troll, but hear me out. It gives you a lot of HP. Now, the actual AD from it isn't that crazy, but the on hit as well as that is really high. Like, you see how I'm not even hitting these backline targets, but I'm dealing like 100, 300 DPS to this one. Like, it's a lot. So building something like this late game can really throw off an enemy as well, because you look at how much HP you've got. Now, if you really, really, really want to survive, you can kind of pair this with something like this. And now you've got, 163 armor and an extra 500 AD. I mean, you're going to deal less DPS for sure. But I mean, at that point, it might even be worth just dealing less DPS if you can survive the initial engage, right? These items are good for surviving initial engage, really, and then turning and doing DPS. So it really just comes down to how you're playing out a team fight. Now, other items can be things like Ravenous. This can fit into your normal build a bit more because it's like, it's not trying to make you survive, it's just dealing a lot more damage. No crit, but the damage on it is really good. It gives you 10% on revamp, and the AoE on it is like, there's a lot, right? So that can also be a good item. Another kind of mix of it is Black Cleaver. You have a lot of armor and you want to survive the initial engage. This can also be a pretty good armor pen item because you can build it alongside your Lord Dominix, right? This can give you up to 30% armor reduction. So if you pair that with your Lord Dominix, you're going to have a lot of armor pen, right? Like, if we give these target dummies a lot of armor and we build this, so if you build this as well as Lord Dominix, this is going to give you ultimate like armor pen, right? 65% armor pen. So if we give these target dummies like a lot of armor, right? Let's just make a real beefcake. So here we have our massive beefcake, right? 2.6k HP and 350 armor, 350 magic pen, right? Now, you can see how we're obviously not going to hit this for a lot. Well, we're going to be hitting it for a lot more than you'd think, right? Cope with these two. Now remember that Black Cleaver is reducing the armor pen, the armor for your whole team. It's reducing armor, right? You're removing 100 armor from that. Now this can be good, I think, if you're trying to really survive the initial engage and then turn back. I think this item is really, really undervalued, just like even compared to the other ones. The armor pen that it gives you, as well as the AD, is really good, as well as the the initial HP for surviving the initial, the HP for surviving the initial engage, right? You can see here, we're dealing 283, right? We're not dealing huge amounts. But if we was to swap this for something we'd normally go on a standard build, like let's say a Bloodthirster, we're not going to be hitting for as much. And also our team is losing out on the armor pen that we're giving it. So only we're hitting this. We're not reducing it for the rest of our team, right? And also, I mean, Bloodthirster is obviously a very good item for surviving engage, but it's more expensive and it doesn't give you the, like, this is good if you can, if you really want the HP, right? And it's also cheaper. So if you can get away with not building a Lord Dominix, this can also be a very good option for surviving initial engage. Now, another kind of off-meta item would be Wits. I mean, this item is kind of meta, but it's actually really good for Jinx. You're dealing a lot of damage with it compared to, this is on a beefcake, but you can see here, you're dealing a lot of magic damage. You're gaining 50 MR as well, so if you're into AP assassins, that's really good. Yeah. I think thinking about how your team fighting is really important when picking these last two items. Can go Chemtech, Chainsword. I put this in here as just like a can do, but you never really want to build this. This is a very suboptimal item. Another thing worth covering is boots real quick. I think plated steel caps can be good sometimes if they've got like a full AD team and they're all trying to hit you. You never really want to go this though, you want to go Berserkers most of the time. And quickly I'll cover the Blade of the Rune King. I think everyone knows how this works. Deals damage to tanks, HP, lifesteal, AD, attack speed. This is just really good for Jinx. If you're attacking a lot, you know, something that Jinx is doing, it gives you go value, right? Just very, very quickly towards the end, I guess it's worth covering these. Sterax is kind of good, can be good for, once again, surviving that initial engage and give you the AD. Can be better than Titanic if you want to deal damage towards the solo, right? And you just want to survive more than actually do DPS. Death's Dance can also be good for surviving. Gives you armor as well, so if they're a very heavy AD comp, grab this, gives you damage, armor, and lets you survive more in the passives. And Ginsu's, so I put this in here because you never really want to build this, okay? Because Jinx relies on critting with her damage. This changes your crits to physical on hit, right? So this is really not good for Jinx. And yeah, I guess that's items covered. Yeah, I guess that's items covered. The only thing that you really want to be building is, I mean, I've covered like most of it, right? Like, but 90% of games you're going to be going Kraken, Berserkers, Runans, IE, and then going situational. Now, I prefer to go, you know, kind of off meta most of the time with situational. I mean, obviously I'll go like Bloodthirster and things like that a lot of the time, but I'm open to the idea of change. And I think that certain items let you survive initial engage, etc. And I think they are very not gold efficient. Certain items that you like deal a lot more. So certain items deal less damage, obviously, but they let you survive initial engage, which I think is very important. Certain items are just underlooked, like Black Cleaver, right? Like this deals a lot of damage because of the armor pen, and it gives you HP, which is, I think, is underlooked. How important HP can actually be in certain fights. So finally, I guess elixirs. Really, really, really want to go Wrath. Elixir of Wrath here, 30 AD, 15% physical vamp. And sometimes go Elixir of Iron. If you've gone something like, you know, if you've gone something like Titanic, this can also be good. Gives you a bit more AD, you know, a ton of HP as well, right? If you're going for that more surviving the initial engage kind of route, building the Elixir of Iron can be good. Gives you 25% tenacity too. Downside to it is actually you gain like what do you call it? You gain size, right? You don't want to gain size, but it is worth considering at least, right? If you've built those two items where you've got your initial DPS and now you just want to survive the initial engage and just keep pumping out that DPS. So yeah, I think that's all the items covered. Thanks for watching. Like, I appreciate it a lot, actually. Certain people asked for this video, which I've never really had before, which is kind of cool. It's probably going to be kind of a long one because I've covered basically everything you need to know about itemization. On Jinx, obviously, max Q, R, W, E. Want to go that route. Unless you're going lethality, you probably want to max W. But yeah, covered everything. Wards, you know, Farsight. Build your fucking control wards when you can. And yeah, thanks for watching, guys. I appreciate it a lot. Laning phase guide will probably be up soon as well. I know there's some guy asking for it. But yeah, thanks for watching, guys. I really appreciate it. Like, subscribe, comment down below, or do that, all the etc., all the above, blah, blah, blah. Thanks for all for watching. See you later.